this is Marina from Darkstar Astrology, bringing you the new moon on June the 3rd. It will fall at 12 degrees Gemini. It will feature an aspect pattern known as the streamer. It's a Huber aspect pattern. It will fall in the constellation of Orion the Hunter, and it just makes a semi-sextile to Mars, so there's no real major aspect for this new moon. The tarot card is the Nine of Swords, and the healing crystal I chose was the Dalmatian Jasper. So the new moon falls in the constellation of Orion, which means the collective has a mind to be provocative and will enjoy living on the edge. Orion is the lustiest and most phallic constellation in the sky, rivaling only Aries and Taurus in virility. It also has quite a Jupiter quality. Now, where the ram and bull are fueled by procreation and biology, Orion loves the conquest and courtship of sex. The chase is the best bit. Lots of twists and turns and intrigue, titillation and teasing are involved. Now, the Gemini twins here are extra inquisitive, intellectually daring, and their minds are as agile as their bodies. They need to have this acrobatic ability since their propensity for living on the edge means they often have to make very narrow escapes. So watch some interesting mental manipulations and intellectual gymnastics in the media at this time. The truth, like Gemini, can be very, very flexible. Now, on a personal level, those touched by this new moon may find themselves torn between parental duties and their passions. And that passion could be their career, life calling, or just wild and uncontrollable pleasure seeking. There will be the problem of wanting to be everything to everyone and spreading themselves too thin as well. The most negative manifestation of this position could be a managerial or parental style that is controlling but disguised as nurturing. So at this new moon, speed can become a drug with an adrenaline buzz from riding the roller coaster between work and home as well. So the fixed star in Orion that the new moon is aligned with is called Tabit, and it's found in the lion's skin that Orion is holding up so triumphantly. Now, he was a great warrior and he needed to display his trophies. So apparently, Manalus says that Orion will fashion alert minds and agile bodies, souls prompt to respond to duty's call, and hearts which press on with unflagging energy in spite of every trial. Now, Orion's sexual energy seems to be about conquering territory, and his sword hangs suggestively below his belt. And if you look at naked Orion in the sky without light pollution and cloud, the phallus is very clear. Now, for the Egyptians, Orion was Osiris, and we know that this missing member was an important element of his resurrection. So, yes, there's a theme of the nether regions and phalluses for this moon as well. So the second phase of Gemini is described in the Picatrix as following. A man whose face is like an eagle and his head is covered with a linen's cloth. He is clothed and protected by a coat of leaden mail, and on his head is iron helmet, above which is a silk crown. And in his hand he has a bow and arrow. This is the face of oppression, evils, and subtlety. So, yeah, I mean, I really love the illustration for this because it's totally phallic and totally alpha male, really. So the new moon doesn't make any major aspects, only this little semi-sextile to Mars, which doesn't really count. So what I found interesting, though, is the streamer aspect pattern, which I know most people won't know because it's a Huber Astrology aspect pattern, and they have a book, and there's about, I don't know how many, it's about 50 different aspect patterns, really. Now, the reason I thought let's look at it is because the next moon is going to be the same. It's going to be the same streamer pattern, but it'll be even more intense and in tighter aspect with the full moon. But it basically centers around the nodes and Jupiter square Neptune. And and then various planets come in and make connections with the nodes. So it is really important, this one. So although the moon isn't connected with it, moons tend to highlight, especially with the full moon as well, it tends to amplify whatever's going on in the skies. So what is the theme really? So it is the ongoing nodal conjunction with Pluto. Neptune trines the North Node while at the same time receiving a square from Jupiter. So that's now retrograde, and both these planets are connected with religion. So Neptune has a more esoteric and mystical approach to spirituality, while Jupiter is associated with the more organized religions. Negatively, Jupiter has a tendency towards zealousness and extremism, while Neptune can be very cult-like and deceptive. There is a passionate and idealistic Venus trine Pluto for this moon, anyway, which is being being pulled into the streamer. So when the moon is not aspecting anything, it's known as peregrine, which means it's a wanderer. And if the moon represents the public, then it's very much like it's cut off and separated from the machinations going on in the very complex streamer. So much is going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about. So the Hubers define the streamer as being familiar with all kinds of streaming. It can flow in either direction in a river without losing balance. It can be like a policeman who controls the traffic and directs it. This figure likes to control powerful forces. He wants to direct and even generate currents, e.g. trends in fashion and art, current trends or other people's mental preferences. So this is like propaganda really and advertising, isn't it? So back to the quote, this is nevertheless perceived as manipulation or interference in the private sphere and provokes emotional reactions. So yeah, we're at a full moon, so there will be some emotional reactions to this manipulation. It seems like people are kind of wising up to how much there is a hidden hand behind what is public. So the tarot card associated with this decan is the Nine of Swords. Now, unfortunately, the air signs are stuck with the sword suit as representing them. So the imagery is never really going to be that positive for any of them, I'm afraid. But we must remember that these cards must be read slightly different when associated with the decans, as they show the lessons learnt in other lifetimes and karma that may have already been paid back. So we have to read it like that. And this one is the most karmic of all the decans, where the past has accrued many paybacks and unfinished business with relationships. So its divinatory meaning by Teach Me Tarot, they say that your past may have caught up with you, or something that you thought dealt with, done and dusted, has reared its ugly head and resurfaced once more, bringing all its unpleasantness with it. This may be on a physical level, but more likely a return of some inner demons or past nightmare, which has thrown your mental equilibrium out of balance. Something from your past may come back to haunt you. So this could be maybe for some public figure in the news. I think we can feel that already. I just found out about something to do with Martin Luther King. I don't really want to go into that now, but also the whole Russia Gate fake news, that's all coming up as well. So now if we associate that with Orion, then, I mean, this fits very well with this tarot card, because like the boastful hunter Orion, natural law will come back to bite you in the foot if you try to mess too much with nature and play God. But those who work with nature will be spared the nightmarish scenario seen on this card. So yeah, let's talk about messing around with nature. Now, on the last moon, I know I talked, I talked about sexual practices that are avoiding pregnancy, I guess. That's the polite way to put it. And so we were talking about the rear end of things. I think this week we will go to the front. And since Orion, there was lots of talk of the phallus and also having it taken off, because that's the myth that is associated with Osiris. I thought that's a good moment as any to talk about transgender issues, because I don't know if you know in America, but various schools at the moment are really fighting back against the curriculum, where they're trying to introduce alternative images of family, and they're also trying to bring in the transgender agenda there as well. And some schools have hit back at it. Now, the ones that have done that are with heavily Muslim pupils, and their parents are just not having it. So this is an interesting turn of events. And I was thinking about all this, and I was thinking, I mean, I know I've said this before, that Western society has degenerated so much that there's gonna be a backlash, and it seems to be coming from the Muslim community. Now, of course, some of them have been horrendous, and I've already talked about. Actually, no, I took that video off because I thought I didn't want to strike on my channel. It was talking about the Rotherham rape cases and the gang rapes and all those kind of stuff. There's that side of things, but there's the positive side of things, and I regard this as a positive, because the English are just too polite and too nice to, they don't want to be seen as transphobic or homophobic, so they can't bring up these things. But obviously the Muslims have no problem bringing this up as well. So initially last year, I don't know if you know, my daughter goes to a school that is, I would say, about a quarter is Christian and 3/4 are going to be Muslim, probably Hindu. But, basically Christianity is a minority there. When I applied for the school, all I was looking at was the academic reputation, which was pretty good. I think things have gone downhill since then, but it was at the time very high. It was graded as excellent as a school. And the headmaster, who's a Sikh, was also knighted. He's a knight too for his services for education. So I thought, well, this is a good school, as opposed to the other one that I was actually nearer to, which is, although still diverse, was more 50-50. So there was probably a lot more white British there, but and it didn't have such a good reputation either. It wasn't as strict, I think, or less. It wasn't as academic. So, but then I started to think, oh no, maybe I should have sent her to that school because she wouldn't be in such a minority in the one she's in. But then I talked to my daughter about it, and she goes, oh God, no, that school, she calls it a chav school. So, this is this is the insult given to white British these days. So, we're not really in a posh area. So maybe if it was a religious school, it probably would have had a better reputation. But this one is quite chavvy, as my daughter put it. But I thought, at least she wouldn't have been a minority. But no, you know what? I'm glad I've sent her to the school that I'm in, even though she is a minority, because this is the result. And I'll tell you what the result is that she has now said to me she really wants to become a Catholic again. And she goes, I think when we move, when I have children, I want them baptised, and I want to go to church, and I definitely want to marry in a church. And I said, oh, great. And I said, oh, is this to do with the fact that, the group of friends she goes round with, it's her best friend is Polish, so she's obviously had her communion and confirmation. Then the other two are Muslim, and actually no, it's 3 Muslims and 2 Polish. And when she was 10, my daughter was totally, I'm an atheist. She was so like that. And she just didn't, I said, do you want to do your Holy Communion? She said no, she had no interest in it at all. So I think it's the influence of having religious friends around her has been a good one. And I think if that's reflected outside of my sort of cocoon of life, if that's being reflected around England, you never know. I mean, maybe it's a force for good in the fact that British kids will start getting religious again, because it's almost cool. It's cool to be religious. And it's really sweet. Like, it was her friend's birthday last weekend, and because of 4 out of the 6 of them were Muslim, they were on their fast for Ramadan, and they couldn't eat until sundown. And obviously, it's pretty late now in the UK, so they did it so that they weren't going to have the cake and all the party food earlier, because it just wouldn't be right, would it, to be stuffing their faces in front of the Muslim girls who couldn't eat. So instead, they just played music. I could hear them across the road. It was really sweet. They were just like yelling their hearts out and dancing to music. And I suppose they were like delirious because they were so hungry. And then later on they ate. But so it really does affect our lives, because it's not like their religion is something that doesn't overlap into ours. It really does. In cases like, someone's birthday, you can't just say, oh, no, we won't fast for this day. They keep to it. So anyway, I think that is a positive thing. I respect everyone's religions. I think it's great that they do that. I think it's great discipline. I think my daughter doesn't go out drinking and doing half the things I did when I was 15. I can't tell her what I was doing when I was 15 because I'm ashamed. She's almost 16 now, and she hasn't had a boyfriend. None of them have had boyfriends. They're a lot more, it's Generation Z, they're a lot more conservative, and also she's picking up on their values as well, to do with things like, sex before marriage, what they think of feminism even, and homosexuality as well. All those things are rubbing off onto my daughter. And then they discover, hey, we're Christians actually, we're Catholics, and we've got quite a lot in common. So, okay, it's a different culture, but the fact that they have some kind of spiritual practice, as opposed to the school that I was going to, that, maybe I was thinking, oh, maybe I should have let her go there because she wouldn't have been in a minority. I'm actually glad I didn't now, because who knows, she could have got involved with the chavvy lifestyle, which unfortunately seems to be drinking, promiscuity, and because they've lost their culture. This is the thing. They don't have their culture, they don't have their religion, they have nothing to replace it with. So it's ironic, isn't it, in the end? And anybody who's been listening to me from the beginning will sort of know the journey that I've been on, how I was so anti the replacement of white British with Islam. But I have to see the good sides of it. And, it's worked out good for me, for my daughter. The thing is, though, I'm not going to stay here for sixth form because, like I said, I want to move to somewhere that's very English, and I'm going to be moving out of London, and the college there it's not going to be chavvy school. It's going to be the middle class English that I'm moving towards, and that's I'm hoping that will be less degenerate. There's a Catholic church in the middle of the town, and it's a beautiful old Gothic one. So when I move, I probably will start going to Mass every Sunday. How mad is that? Just because it's a gorgeous church. I don't go here because I don't like the church. So yeah, I think for this moon, I titled it Balance, because I think human nature corrects itself, and this Islamification of Europe, it's an old story. It's not new, and there's always been a resetting whenever that happens, I think, and I think that's what's going on now. people will gravitate to where they feel at home. And at the end of the day, they keep themselves to themselves. They prefer their own communities, and the Polish like their communities. And everybody, I don't think that's such a bad thing. I don't think it's segregation or anything like that. But you just have to find your place. And that's what I'm doing, and that's what everybody else is doing. And that's fine. I think that's fine. And it also occurred to me as well that my daughter's Muslim friends, they have very right-wing values. I mean, they might, I don't know, maybe their parents would vote Labour in elections just because they're sort of being encouraged to vote that way, and because it's identity politics. But the values are right-wing. They're the same as Christian values, which are, for the main, pretty conservative or right-wing, I guess. So yeah. So that's my little rant for today. So let's look at the healing crystal. So I chose the Dalmatian Jasper since it's associated with the dual nature of Gemini and the balancing of opposites. So healing crystals for you say, this allows you to move forward in life and discover your true purpose for being here. Its energy brings childlike joy and a sense of playfulness into your life. Will aid you with spiritual grounding and psychic protection. The spots of black tourmaline in the stone will suck up any negative or disharmony that it finds in the surroundings, but it does not absorb it, but will convert the negativity into positive energy, allowing an excellent effect on your well-being. Then my Crystalpedia says, the vibration of Dalmatian Jasper helps one to release any lack of trust in other people. It lessens disillusionment and helps one see their strengths and weaknesses. Its energy reminds one to open up and enjoy life and have fun in the process. So yeah, so far these crystals seem to be really fitting with my little rant there. So yeah, I'm glad I chose them now. And then cosmic crystals say, known as the supreme nurturer, the gemstone is a symbol of health, well-being and mental clarity. It is said to protect against stress, depression and negative thinking. This stone is known to act as a cleanser to help align and balance your mental state. This stone is said to be an instant pick-me-up, and it will fill you with positive energy and will also help to balance you. It's said to dispel any dysfunctional energy and fill your life with positive energies. And yeah, that's cosmic crystals. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm just seeing the positives and avoiding too much of the whole depressing, oh my God, we're dying out, we're going to be replaced. It's beyond hope in Europe now. It's not beyond hope at all. I just think it's a reset. I think it's a reboot. I think Notre Dame was a good symbol of resurrection, and that's what's happening. And another thing my daughter says, well, she goes, oh, when I grow up, I want to have 3 children. I went, wow, good. So I must be doing an all right job then, because when I was her age, I'm never having children. I was just so anti-family, but that was because mine was so toxic. So yeah, I only had 1 child, and I think her being an only child is made her realise, and she loves her little half brother. He's coming up to 3, and she adores him. So I think, again, you see, it's adjusting itself. Everything adjusts itself. She's seen the negatives of what it's like to be just a kind of like carefree, Dionysian, artistic type, which is what I was, rebelling against everyone, raging feminist, angry with men, divorcing twice. So just in the microcosm, my life reached peak degeneracy, and then it flips over. You can't get any... Well, sorry, I wasn't that bad, but I'm just saying that it serves as a warning, doesn't it, for the children, and hopefully they learn from the mistakes of the adults. And I think Generation Z will do the same. They're going to look at the generation before them, the millennials, where the whole kind of transgender issue came up, and a lot of them, that was made acceptable, and maybe they'll just see that and say, you know what, if we all do that, we're just going to die out. So the equal opposite reaction to that, what is that? Traditional families have loads of babies, become Amish, I don't know. But yeah, it seems that way anyway. If we believe in nature and that nature has an intelligence, that natural law is going to kick in. It just has to. Otherwise, we're doomed. So enough of the doomed. Resurrection is the word for this new moon, I think. Balancing. And we really do live in interesting times. It's always darkest before dawn. And dawn is on its way. I don't know when. But it's coming. So that's it for this new moon. By the way, I have started putting up the 2020 horoscopes. I've got up to Leo, doing Virgo today. So they're up. And when they're finished, then I can come back to YouTube and make a whole load of new videos, get back to doing a lot more predictions as well, like looking at the month ahead. That's what I wanted to get back to. So sorry, this one was late as well because I'm really so busy with the horoscopes. So see you on darkstarastrology.com, and I'll see you at the next full moon. All the best. Bye bye.